The city was a monster. It had teeth of steel. It had a breath of smoke. Arjun felt its weight every day. The noise was constant, a never-ending scream. Horns blared like angry beasts. People rushed, always rushing, nowhere to find peace. His apartment felt small. The walls closed in. He needed to breathe. He needed to escape the concrete cage that held him tight. The city was draining his soul, drop by slow drop. He yearned for open spaces, for a quiet horizon. He dreamt of empty roads, roads that stretched into nothing, just him and the car, and the wind. The thought of escape was a seed. It grew in his mind. It became an urgent need, a desperate plan formed, a road trip, far from the city's grip, far from its endless demands. He packed a small bag, just the essentials. His old car waited. It was an escape pod, ready to launch him into the unknown, away from the crushing pressure. He craved the silence he had forgotten. The decision felt like a gasp of fresh air. He imagined the quiet, the hum of the engine, the blur of trees. No deadlines, no angry calls, just the road. And the promise of something different, something to wash away the city's grime. The city had chewed him up, spat him out. He needed to find himself again, somewhere quiet, somewhere the world wasn't shouting. He wanted to feel small, but in a good way, lost in nature's vastness. His heart beat a little faster, anticipation mixed with a sliver of unease. Leaving the familiar, even a familiar torment, was a step into shadows. But the pull of the open road was stronger, stronger than the fear. He locked his apartment door. The click echoed, a small sound, but it felt final, a goodbye to the noise, a hello to the unknown journey ahead. The car engine rumbled to life, a comforting sound. Arjun pulled away from the curb. The city lights receded in his rearview mirror. They grew smaller, fainter, like distant, angry stars. He felt a lightness spread through him. A burden lifted. The highway opened up, a dark ribbon unfurling into the night. He pressed the accelerator. The car responded, eager to leave the city behind just like him. The journey had begun. He was finally free. Mile after mile slipped by. The world outside became a dark blur. Trees were shadows. Fields were empty expanses. The only light came from his headlights, cutting a path through the darkness. There was a rhythm to the drive. The hum of the tires on the asphalt. The gentle sway of the car. It was hypnotic, peaceful. He rolled down the window a little. Cool night air rushed in. It smelled clean, fresh, so different from the city's stale breath. This was what he needed. Silence filled the car. A beautiful, welcome silence. He hadn't realized how much he missed it. The city was a constant assault on the senses. Here, there was only the car, the road, and his thoughts. For the first time in months, his mind felt clear, uncluttered. The tension in his shoulders eased. He took a deep breath, exhaled slowly. This was freedom. A simple, profound freedom found on a lonely stretch of highway. He felt his worries begin to melt. He thought about nothing in particular, just watched the road. The white lines appeared, disappeared, appeared, disappeared. A steady, calming pattern. He felt a sense of calm he hadn't experienced in years. The world outside the car seemed to hold its breath, as if respecting his need for quiet. This tranquility was precious. He wanted to soak it in, let it heal him. He felt a smile touch his lips. This was exactly what he had hoped for. Pure, undisturbed peace. After a few hours, the silence felt a little too deep, too absolute. Arjun reached for the radio, a familiar comfort. He just wanted some soft music, something to accompany the quiet night. He turned the dial. Static hissed. He frowned. He was far from the city now. Maybe the signal was weak. He tried another station, more static, louder this time, a harsh, grating sound. It clawed at the peaceful atmosphere he had cultivated inside the car. He fiddled with the tuner, trying to find a clear channel. The static seemed to play with him. It would almost clear. A snatch of music, a voice, then gone. Swallowed by the harsh crackle. It was annoying. A small irritation in his otherwise perfect escape. He told himself it was just the remote location. Nothing more. But the static felt different. It wasn't just random noise. There was a strange quality to it, a sense of something trying to break through the noise. The static grew more insistent. It wasn't just a background hiss anymore. It pulsed. It seemed to have a rhythm, a broken, jagged rhythm, like a distorted heartbeat. Arjun felt a tiny prickle of unease. He tried to ignore it. He focused on the road, but the sound was invasive. It pushed its way into his thoughts. The peace he felt moments ago started to fray. The radio, once a friend, felt like a small, unwelcome presence. He almost turned it off, but something made him hesitate. A strange curiosity, or maybe a stubborn refusal to let the static win. He kept turning the dial, slowly, carefully, hoping to catch a clear signal. The static ebbed and flowed. It was like listening to the ocean, but an ocean of pure raw noise. An ocean that whispered of things unseen. He pressed on, unaware that this was just the beginning of the radio's unsettling performance that dark night. Suddenly, through the static, a sound. A clear sound, but not music, not a news report. It was a scream. A short, sharp scream. Arjun's blood ran cold. He jerked his hand away from the radio. His heart pounded in his chest. Had he imagined it? He stared at the radio. It looked innocent, just an old piece of plastic and metal. But the scream had been so real, so chilling. It echoed in the sudden silence of the car. He listened, hard. The car was quiet again. Only the hum of the engine, the rush of the wind. Maybe it was interference, a stray signal from somewhere. That had to be it. He tried to rationalize it. His mind raced, trying to find a logical explanation. But the scream had been too human, too full of terror. It didn't sound like anything a radio should pick up. He felt a knot tighten in his stomach. The road ahead seemed darker now, more menacing. Then another sound, a whisper. So faint he almost missed it. It seemed to come from deep within the static, a sibilant hiss. He couldn't make out words, but the tone was unmistakable. It was cold, malevolent, like someone was leaning close, whispering secrets in his ear. Arjun's breath hitched. This wasn't normal. This wasn't just a bad signal. Something was terribly wrong with the radio. Or maybe something was terribly wrong with the night itself. The whispers faded, replaced by a low moan, a sound of pain or sorrow. It rose and fell, weaving in and out of the static. Arjun felt goosebumps erupt on his arms. He wanted to turn the radio off, smash it, throw it out the window, but he was frozen. A strange mix of fear and morbid curiosity held him captive. The ordinary object on his dashboard had become a conduit, a gateway to something terrifying. The peaceful drive was over. Section 5. Mind's dark mirror, fear takes the wheel. Fear was like a cold hand. It gripped Arjun's heart, squeezing tight. The screams, the whispers, the moans, they couldn't be real. Could they? His mind scrambled for answers. Was he tired? Was the long drive playing tricks on him? He hadn't slept well for weeks, you know. The city's stress had worn him down. Maybe this was just exhaustion, a hallucination born of a weary mind. He clung to that thought, a lifeline in a rising tide of dread. He glanced at the dark fields beside the road. They seemed to stretch into infinity, empty and desolate. Was there someone out there watching him? The thought sent a shiver down his spine. He felt exposed, vulnerable. The car, once a sanctuary, now felt like a trap. He was alone, miles from anywhere, with a radio that seemed to be channeling nightmares. Paranoia began to whisper its own insidious tune in his ear, louder than the radio. Every shadow seemed to move. Every rustle of leaves sounded like footsteps. He kept checking his rearview mirror, expecting to see something, someone. But there was only the empty road behind him. The darkness pressed in. He was fighting a battle within himself, his rational mind against a growing primal fear. And the fear was winning. It painted vivid pictures in his mind, faces in the static, hands reaching out from the speakers. He considered turning back, fleeing to the city he had just escaped. Its noise and chaos suddenly seemed comforting, safe, compared to this lonely road and its haunted radio. But he was deep into the countryside now. Turning back would take hours. He had to keep going. He told himself to be strong, to ignore the radio, But the fear had taken root. It was a passenger now, sitting beside him, watching him, waiting. Section 6. The Silent Watchers. An unsettling pause at the Dhaba. Up ahead, a faint glow. Lights. A sign. Dhaba. Open 24 hours. Relief washed over Arjun. People. Normalcy. He needed to stop. To clear his head. To escape the confines of the car and its sinister radio. He pulled into the dusty parking lot. A few trucks were parked haphazardly. The Dhaba itself was a simple structure, dimly lit, but it looked like a haven, a place to anchor himself back to reality. He switched off the engine. The silence was immediate and heavy. He stepped out of the car. His legs felt shaky. The night air was cool. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. He walked towards the entrance. The Dhaba was quiet, too quiet. There were a few men sitting at tables. They didn't speak, they just watched him. Their eyes followed him as he walked in, unblinking, unwelcoming. Their stillness was unnerving. Arjun ordered a cup of tea. His voice sounded loud in the silence. The man behind the counter nodded slowly. He didn't say a word. He moved with a strange lethargy, as if underwater. Arjun sat at a table. He tried to look casual, but he felt their eyes on him, the other patrons. They weren't talking. They weren't eating. Just sitting, staring, not at him directly but in his general direction. It felt like they knew something about the road, about the night. The tea arrived, hot, sweet. He sipped it slowly, trying to ground himself. But the atmosphere in the Dhaba was thick with unspoken things. It offered no comfort, only a deeper sense of unease. He looked at the men again. Their faces were hard to read in the dim light. Were they real? Or just another part of this waking nightmare? He finished his tea quickly. The need to leave was overwhelming. This place was no sanctuary. It was just another stop on his terrifying journey. Section 7. Machine Possessed. The radio's malevolent will. Back in the car, Arjun felt a renewed sense of dread. The Dhaba stop had offered no respite. Only more questions, more unease. He hesitated before starting the engine. He didn't want to hear the radio again. He reached out. His finger hovered over the power button. He would drive in silence. He had to. For his sanity. He pressed the button. The radio stayed off. A small victory. He started the car, pulled back onto the dark highway. For a few miles, there was only the sound of the engine. Arjun began to relax. Maybe it was over. Maybe the strange phenomena were tied to that specific stretch of road. Or perhaps the brief stop had broken some kind of spell. He clung to this hope. He focused on driving, on reaching his destination. Wherever that was. He just wanted this night to end. He needed the daylight to chase away these oppressive shadows. He needed the sun. Then it happened. The radio switched itself on. Arjun jumped. His heart leapt into his throat. The volume was loud, blasting static, hissing, crackling. He hadn't touched it. His hands were on the steering wheel. He stared at the radio in disbelief. Then terror. It was impossible. Radios didn't turn themselves on. They didn't adjust their own volume to deafening levels. This was not a malfunction. This was something else, something active, something with intent. He lunged for the power button, pressed it hard. Nothing. The static continued, louder, more aggressive. He tried the volume knob. It wouldn't turn. It was stuck, or held. The scream started again. Not faint this time, but loud, piercing, filling the small car, mixed with manic laughter and guttural growls. The radio was possessed, it was alive, and it was tormenting him. He was trapped with this screaming, laughing, monstrous thing. Section 8. Scars on the Silence. The Haunted Return. Arjun drove. He drove like a man possessed himself, blindly, desperately. The radio continued its horrific symphony, screams, laughter, whispers. He tried to block it out. He covered his ears with one hand, steered with the other. But the sound seeped through. They burrowed into his mind. He saw things in the darkness, shapes flitting at the edge of his vision, faces in the trees. The line between reality and hallucination was gone, completely erased by fear. He didn't know how long he drove, hours, or maybe minutes. Time had lost its meaning. The only reality was the terror, the road, and the demonic radio. Then, as suddenly as it began, the radio went silent. The power light flickered and died. Silence descended. A deafening, ringing silence. Arjun was shaking, sobbing. He pulled the car over to the side of the road. He couldn't drive anymore. He slumped over the wheel. Exhausted, broken. Dawn was breaking. Pale light seeped into the sky, chasing away the deepest shadows. The world looked normal again. Birds began to sing. But nothing felt normal to Arjun. He felt changed, scarred. The night had carved something out of him, left a hollow space filled with dread. He looked at the radio. It was just an old radio again, silent, inert. But he knew what it was capable of, what it had done. He eventually started the car, drove slowly, numbly, towards the nearest town. He needed help, or maybe he just needed to be around people who didn't know about the screams in the static. He found a small motel, checked in. He didn't sleep. He just sat on the bed, staring at the wall. The silence of the room was almost as bad as the radio's noise. Every creak, every distant sound made him jump. The night was over, but its echoes remained. Section 9. Echoes in the static, a lingering warning. Arjun never fixed the radio. He couldn't bring himself to touch it. He drove back to the city in silence. The car felt tainted, a vessel of bad memories. He sold it as soon as he could. He never told anyone the full story. Who would believe him? They would say he was tired, stressed, that he imagined it all. Maybe they were right. He sometimes wondered himself, was it real, or was it a figment of his frayed mind? But he knew. Deep down he knew what he had heard, what he had felt. The terror was too real, the screams too vivid, the radio's malevolent autonomy too specific. It wasn't just a breakdown, it was an encounter with something inexplicable, something that lived in the lonely places, in the dead of night, something that could reach out through an ordinary object and touch your deepest fears, making them scream aloud. The experience left a permanent mark on Arjun. He avoided long drives at night. He distrusted silence. He felt a prickle of unease whenever he heard static on a radio. The city, once his cage, now felt like a shield. Its noise and crowds a buffer against the unseen things that lurked beyond its lights. He had sought escape. He had found something far more terrifying than the life he was running from. He found a darkness he never knew existed. So, if you find yourself on a lonely road, late at night, and your radio starts to crackle, if you hear strange voices, whispers, screams, don't dismiss it. Don't try to find a logical explanation. Turn it off, if you can. Or better yet, drive in silence. Some roads are best traveled without company, especially the kind that speaks from the static. Some silences are meant to be kept. Some doors are best left unopened by the turn of a dial.